Right. Welcome to the Forge Coffee Break. This is the Autodesk Platform Services, formerly Forge Coffee Break. Thank you for joining. This is the episode number 59, or 69, sorry, 69. And as usual, thank you very much for joining. And this is a very open space for any general topics or questions that you have. And again, as usual, let me start with you. If you have any topics or projects that you want to bring up. The last two coffee breaks were handled by my colleague Jaime, and I was offline, taking a few days off. And so now back here, and hope you are doing fine. So let me open to you. Any questions or topics? Please open your microphone. Or maybe we have a very quiet audience, or no one can hear me. Anything interesting going on, or should I call a few names? Let's see who I know here. Moses, hello. How are you? So can you hear me fine, right? Everyone is so quiet today.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, we're a little quiet. Yes, we can.
Oh, yes. I have to
think
check.
the coffee machine's still warming up. That's what's going on.
That's funny because I don't usually do this. Can you hear me? Because it's like the Zoom bingo. Usually someone would just scream if something's going on. Okay, so what is interesting going on from our side? We are starting to release a new version of authentication API. And if you are, if you have applications, of course, for using that. So it's important to, at some point, start using the V2. Authentication was really the first API we released, right? Because that's the foundation for almost everything. And that was, I don't know, maybe 2014. And the world have changed a lot since then. And one of the interesting things is the open API spec, meaning that now with V2, we support that and it's more compatible with other systems. Now, what we're doing on our side is if you're using any of the current packages that we have in Node.js or C#, those packages are updated to use V2. So just move to the latest version of that package, and that should be using V2. The same will happen for the other SDKs or packages that we have. But the only other one that uses authentication is actually design automation that is also being changed. So, okay, so in summary, if you're using one of those SDKs, you should be fine. Just move to the latest one. But if you do authentication on on your own side, then you eventually have to move to V2. So the documentation is there, the API is there, it's compliant with OpenAPI. It's very, very similar. It's just a syntax changing, and that's again to accommodate OpenAPI. And with that, shortly, or with some time, we're going to announce deprecation, and then we have some time to move from V1 to V2. And I know authentication is something that everyone is using, so it's relevant for everyone. Okay, so as usual, all the links that I'm showing here are on the blog. So this one specifically, it's right there as well. But let me share here, Marcelo. All right, what else? Back to you. Any other questions or topics? Usually there's so many.
So I noticed we've updated some of our samples for V2 or V2 auth. In particular, two-legged. Doing two-legged now in version 2 requires a secret, and so we have to provide a secret in order to make the initial, the very first request to retrieve that an access token. And I'm just wondering, any recommendations on what to put in that secret?
Sorry, you mean in two-legged you require the client secret, or
Yeah, you need to provide a plain text secret as part of the process.
you see what you mean here?
Yeah, it's this fun.
Which one you mean? Because that's the two-legged, right? And I'm passing the client ID and secret as a header here.
Okay, you're looking at V2. Yeah, there's now this. Where is it? Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so for basic, the authorization basic, you have to put in basically some random key.
Oh, this is not random. This is your client ID colon client secret base 64 encoded.
Ah, actually, you know what I'm thinking then? I'm thinking of the three-legged auth then. There's a point where you have to provide a secret or just some plain text.
Yeah, so you should, where is it? Here, when you do PKCE. Yeah, so the state, code challenge, those pieces, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. So this is just to confirm that whoever is calling is the actual person that is allowed to call this endpoint, not anyone else, right? So the big advantage of PKCE flow is that you only need the client ID for that. You don't need the client secret. So you can store that on a desktop only or single page application without server side, right? But to ensure that whoever is calling is actually the one that is calling, there is this information here that helps confirm that. So the big expert in this API is not here, Peter Bros. He did a blog post explaining the details. So let me get to that here, where we should have, where is it? That's a good point, Michael. Let me bring up the full explanation he did. Application types. Oh yeah, here, yeah. Application types right there. Then yeah, here, right? So how to generate that that string locally. So there is a code for that, and it's placed here.
The one.
Yeah.
Super fun.
Yeah.
And that was while I was traveling through the Nordics, that was one of the I'm trying to think who was it who was saying it was super fun. Oh yeah, that's right. Now I remember who it was. Yeah. I don't know if Philip was on the call. But yes,
yeah,
it's how we would describe things in Germany. It was super fun.
Yeah. So I think it's worth moving to V2 in a way that it compliant with OpenAPI. So in that way, now we can support better, open other libraries and other packages that are compliant with that. And again, V1 was released way back in 2014, I guess. So yeah, it's time to improve. So it doesn't change a lot. It's more like how you call the API, and that allow us to do more things in the future. Okay, enough of that. A lot of authentication. I see more people joined. Again, welcome. And again, as usual, this is very open. If you have any questions or topics you want to bring up, just open your microphone. I don't want to be talking all the time. Or maybe people are very quiet today. You probably need some coffee too.
I have a quick question. Is there anywhere that you can guide me to the getting started Revit tutorial?
Revit API desktop?
Yeah. No, for Autodesk Construction Cloud, or what you're working in. Sorry, formerly Forge. Forget what you guys are calling it now.
So what are you trying to do? That may be easier.
I basically want to be able to host the Revit model through the web, through the viewer.
When you say host, you want to view that model in the browser?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
In context of ACC or standalone application, like your own app, your own system?
ACC.
Inside ACC.
Mm-hmm.
But inside ACC, you can already use ACC. You just want to stream from ACC, like the mode is already there. You want to view it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. When you do that, you want to make some changes on that viewer, or just view as is? I mean, do you want to add some chart, dashboards, extract some data? What are you looking to do with that?
Well, right now I'm basically just trying to do a takeoff for the business that I work for. I mainly just want to get the view now, but eventually I want to be able to take data from it. So like if I'm clicking on a window, I want to know exactly what the code is so that we can bring it from our database to see like what the quantity is in the model.
All right, interesting. So it feels like one of the tutorials we have on the APS, formerly Forge website, right? So aps.autodesk.com, and then getting started. If you click here, it will go to a tutorial that shows how to get started, environment, and then tutorials. The one you're looking for is Hub's browser. It shows how to connect to ACC using your credentials, browse through your projects, folders, and files, and then we'll open one of those files and view that in the viewer right here. So once you click on it, it will open here the model, right? So that shows how to connect to ACC. Then if you go to the next tutorial, dashboards, it shows how to expand that and create different kind of dashboards. This one here, if I go all the way down, I guess, yeah, there is some charts. If you go to data, if you keep moving to the data grid, because those tutorials build on top of each other, right? So this one here will show how to create a table with data. And in this case, I think it's counting elements, but you can adjust to do take off or extract information. That shows most of that. Now, that said, this is a tutorial, shows you how to do it. We have lots and lots of dashboard, quantity, extraction kind of samples as to move after that. But that, if you're just getting started, that's the best place to go, right? You start here with this tutorial, and then you can try one of the samples that are available. Does it help?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much.
Cool. Now it's interesting because quantity takeoff, it's usually something that is very often done, and there are some tools inside ACC to do that. So you may want to look at the cost management module, because that's what it does, right? It helps you extract quantities so you can do budget estimation out of it. But that's a feature in ACC, with which we also have APIs. So, but again, if you want to implement your own, that's the way to do it. This tutorials will show you how to get started. And it's a very common topic. I bet a lot of other people here are doing something similar. Do you have any other suggestions for Jacob? Anyone else? Maybe not.
Nope, that's the place to start. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking more like, have you done it? What do you think about it? So, but anyway. So as I said, we also have lots of cool.
Hello.
Oh, yes. Hi.
Oh, my microphone wasn't working before. I was wondering, did you consider Autodesk Takeoff as one of those options in ACC? Is there an API available for that? I noticed it uses the cluster extension in Autodesk Takeoff.
The question for Jacob, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I have not.
And so just to make the point there, right, there is a ACC feature for that. And if you go to the ACC APIs, you scroll down, right, there is a takeoff section of the API for that. There is also takeoff tutorials on how to extract inventory. But it requires to use the ACC takeoff feature, right? Because the API will just connect to that feature. So those are product APIs allows you to connect to that product feature. So different routes, you can do it your own with the platform, or you can use ACC and just connect to ACC. Good point. Thanks, Moses.
Thank you.
All right, thinking interesting. Any other projects? I think a couple weeks back we had people sharing what they're doing. What was his name? LMVQL was quite interesting. So, yeah. Kaushik, you are sharing this blog post. What is? You want to open your microphone? You just share the link, right? If you're talking, I cannot hear you because you are muted, but it's not there. Maybe what you're talking about is that this sample was updated and there is a new version of that source code. Is that what you're looking for? This sample is now on the APS plant operation address. And yeah, pretty much the same, but just a bit different. Oh, you want to know about the flow animation? I think that's still there, isn't it? So that thing to do the flow animation was mostly hand coded. You just hard code a few IDs that it is going to run through. So it's not something that can be expanded easily. What you can do is to read the line segment information and then get, sorry, as a line ID information on your model. And that should give you everything that is on that line. So let's say, and that's applicable only for PNID, right? So when you get a pipe like this and you go to properties, there is a line information here somewhere. Spec, line.
I think it just does a fit to view of the DBID and it does it in order.
Well, yeah, but you need to find all the DBIDs you want to show, right?
Oh, you mean like funding the system?
Yes. So in PNID, you have line segment information. That's the one I'm looking for. Yeah, here, line number. So once you have the line number, you know everyone that is on that line. So let's say line 1038, everyone that is on that line. So all the elements that are connecting to each other on that line should have the same 1038, right? Now you can zoom into those elements, but it's not something that is built in because Plant 3D does not have system information like Revit in that same way, right? Or sorry, when the models are extracted to viewer, they don't maintain that information. So you have to rely on the line number tag. So you can find everyone that is on that line, and then you zoom into those elements in order. Hope it helps or answers the question, but it's not like super helpful because it's not really something that is built in.
Hi, Augusto. How do you get to this plant operation page? Is it from the article?
It should be. So it's a good point. When that sample, we just updated that, and Varun was working on it. And
I think it's an APS showroom, right? A Forge showroom.
Yeah, but it shouldn't be here, right? It
not, should be.
Yeah, it's not. But Varun was updating that on that sample, and yeah, I'll definitely follow up to include here. Because yeah, oh yeah, it's here. It's very hidden, but it's here. But it's still showing the wrong address. So yeah, thanks, Juan. That's a good point. Let me take this to fix the live version here because it's not there.
Can you point them to the Forge showroom version? Augusto?
Yeah.
Just so they've got something.
So this is an now a bit old list of samples where you can see a few things, including that plant operation. What we are trying to move away is to update that sample and have a better list under the documentation. If you go to documentation, scroll all the way to code samples, it should
Gotcha.
all be here. Most of them are, not all of them, but it's getting updated. So yeah, so this is the one that will be in the future. All the samples will be here, but right now a few of the samples are still only here. We are moving all of them. That's your question, Michael.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And it's on the the third row on the right, in case you're looking for it, Augusto.
Yeah. Third. Yeah. Right. There are two of them, right? Okay. Cool.
Actually, fourth row.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. But I think even the link here is not updated, right? I have to update that as well.
Oh no, I think you did. Yeah, I think you updated it. I remember asking you
Yeah.
a little while ago.
Yeah.
Actually, you can try it. Just try clicking on it.
But yeah, it's still running the Heroku link, which is we are moving all the samples to the Autodesk.io domain, which should be better. Yeah. So lots of clicks to do here. Make sure to take that action. Thanks. Who's asking? Kaushik. I'm saying this right. Cool. All right. I'm definitely talking a lot. Let me.
Hi. I have another question. Since I think we brought up the tutorials, and I find them extremely useful, especially going through the viewer. But one thing I feel that is lacking is a tutorial on connecting what's happening in a viewer, what's happening in design automation. I think kind of creating the hooks or the integration between the viewer and design automation. I'm still not sure about where to find that exact documentation or how to go between the two. I'm not sure if I'm clearly articulating what I'm asking for, but I think, yeah.
So let's try a different way. What you're trying to do instead of what is the technology? Let's see what you're trying to do.
So I think in a previous example, I was trying to, I went through the viewer steps. I had the viewer working, I had the cluster extension working, but I didn't know how to create the design automation steps that would show in the viewer. If I can remember exactly what functions I was trying to write, it was, part of it was doing inventory or adding up all the different types that were in the viewer and then displaying that count, counting up what's in the model and displaying that count in the viewer on the screen.
When you say count in the model, you brought up design automation because you need design automation to do that on your workflow.
I'm trying to remember. It was a little while ago. I wanted to do some custom calculations, not just a straightforward count, but something like adding, like it may have involved like the generic model category and doing some algorithms to say that when you see this generic category, that it's actually a window or it's actually something else, to put it in a more consistent category, and then render that to the screen in the viewer.
Okay.
It'll probably come to me exactly after after
Yeah.
this call, but yeah, I was trying to do something along those lines, and I think the tutorials on the website are very comprehensive for the viewer, and then I think it's like separate when you're going through design automation, but there's not exactly an example that says, okay, when you're working in design automation, this is how it would come back to be handled by the viewer.
Yeah. So I think I'm getting some of it, right? What we probably need to explore a bit better, right? So in summary, in this case, we have two APIs that are different from each other, right? They are very different in a way, right? So the way to go from one to the other is via webhooks or callbacks, right? So you need to pass the information from one to the other, or maybe WebSockets, right? So, but you have to pass the information from one to the other if you're doing those changes in real time, or if you're doing those changes and you want to see the results, as they come through. So the answer to that, to make that connection possible, it's using webhooks, callbacks, WebSockets, or open network. Those options, they're essentially all the same. It's just allowing to pass message from one to the other. And it's a matter of timing on when each type of message will have a different timing, but it's how you move from one to the other, right? So for instance, there is one API in design automation that is WebSockets that allows you, as you run your automation in design automation, you can send bits of message out of design automation to another system that will then highlight in the viewer somehow, right? Based on the information you see there. So that's technology to make that possible. The second part is, to make that possible, you really need to have stable IDs from one to the other. So the stable ID that you see in Revit can show up in the viewer. So for Revit models, that's possible. We have the external ID, which is a element ID in Revit that works well. So it should be possible, right? Now, there are some details there from your description. So if you'd like to book some time with us to discuss in deep what you want to do, then we can say, okay, use this event or this webhook or this type of callback, then that should be possible.
Yes. When you said webhooks, that brought to mind where I stopped, and my next step was going to be to book that office hours, because there's not exactly a description. I think some of the examples, some of the tutorials that implement webhooks may be using a different framework than the tutorials that are based on the viewer API. And so I would get lost, quite honestly. So I need to connect the dots in the office hours.
Yeah, definitely. And just a interesting caveat about that, right? So tutorials are really meant to be super easy and super focused on one thing, right? If it gets too many things, then it's better to be a sample. So we try as much as possible to make the samples on top of the tutorial. So you learn once and you can just repeat and expand, right? But that's not always possible depending on the kind of API and kind of workflows you have. What we try to do when that's not possible is to maintain the same look and feel of the API, how the code is written. But not always possible. But book some time with us. We are happy to walk you through, so you can explain to us exactly what you want to do, the workflow, and you say, okay, use this API with these and these workflows, connections, webhooks, WebSockets, whatever, right? So we can definitely guide you there. Thanks, Moses.
Thank you.
Cool. So with that, we are just right on time. And as usual, the next coffee break, oops, come back here. No, not that much. I really hate when that happens. Next coffee break is again in 2 weeks, same link, same time, April 19. And thank you very much for joining today, and see you in 2 weeks. Thank you.
Thanks, Augusto.